The story starts with a woman named Linda Little. She works in an office and is a brilliant planner. You could give her the hardest job in the world, and she would not just finish it. She would do a fantastic job. Even with all that talent, Linda is a bit awkward around other people. She does not really dress up or wear neat clothes. The way she talks is also a little unusual. Because of this, everyone else in the office tends to look at her a bit strangely. Donovan is Linda's colleague in that office. When it comes to real work, Donovan is completely useless, but he sure knows how to talk big. He is so sneaky that he takes Linda's wonderful reports, puts his own name on them, and steals all the praise from the top managers. The big boss of the company, however, knows exactly how hard Linda works. He had even made up his mind to give her a promotion, but sadly, he passed away very suddenly. After the boss passes away, his son Bradley Preston takes charge of the company. As it turns out, Bradley and Donovan are old friends from their college days. Because they are buddies, Bradley gives the promotion Linda worked so hard for right to Donovan instead. To make matters worse, Bradley really does not like Linda at all. On his very first day, the strong smell of the tuna fish Linda brought for lunch got onto his hands. Bradley made a rude remark about her choices, which deeply embarrassed poor Linda in front of the whole office. Now, when Linda finds out that Donovan got her promotion, she marches right into Bradley's office to complain. Bradley is quite surprised to see her acting so brave. He tells her that they are about to make a big deal with a company over in Bangkok. Bradley, Donovan, and a few other folks are heading there for the job. Bradley offers to let Linda come along with them. He explains that there is some trouble with the numbers in the contract. He tells her that if she can fix those problems, he will think about giving her that promotion after all. Hearing this offer, Linda agrees to go to Bangkok right away. But a little later, she sits all alone in her car, crying her eyes out and trying to comfort herself. Those cruel words Bradley had said earlier about her taste really hurt her deeply. At this point in the story, we find out a few fun things about Linda. She has a pet bird named Sweetie. She also really loves to watch shows on TV about people surviving in the wild jungle. Right around this time, we also meet a lovely young woman named Zuri, who is going to be Bradley's wife. We can see a great big diamond ring right on her finger. The very next morning, Linda meets up with Bradley, Donovan and the rest of the group at the airport. They are all flying out to Bangkok together on a private plane. Once they get settled on the plane, Linda shares some great news. She tells them she went through the company paperwork and figured out a way to solve all the problems with their big contract. But sadly, even after sharing such wonderful news, nobody really pays attention to her hard work. Instead, everyone just keeps focusing on her awkward behavior. While the plane is up in the air, that sneaky Donovan pulls out an old video of Linda for everyone to see. Linda had made that video to try and get on one of those TV survival shows. To be honest, it looked pretty silly. Donovan shows it to the whole group and starts laughing and making mean jokes about her. This hurts poor Linda terribly. With tears in her eyes, she shuts down her important work file without even saving it. Right at that moment, the plane starts shaking terribly. The engine catches on fire, and the whole plane begins to break apart. A giant hole opens up on one side of the plane. Because Linda and Bradley had their seatbelts buckled tight, they do not get thrown out, but the strong wind pulls everyone else right out through the hole. In the middle of all that chaos, Donovan somehow manages to grab hold of Linda's hand and hangs on. But that man is so selfish. To save his own skin, he actually tries to choke poor Linda just to steal her seat. Well, Linda fights back. She grabs a fork, jabs Donovan with it, and he gets sucked right out of the hole too. Right after that, the plane crashes straight down into the ocean. The water rushes in, and Linda starts to sink. Thankfully, she remembers a trick she learned from watching those survival shows on TV, and manages to free herself from her seat. But let me tell you, trying to stay alive and not drown out there in the middle of the vast ocean is no easy task. Linda barely escapes drowning and washes up on a totally deserted island. There is nothing but the ocean in every direction, and she has no idea where in the world she is. While she is looking around the island, she spots Bradley lying unconscious a little ways down the beach. She gets right to work and makes a sharp tool out of a rock. Then she gathers up some large leaves and builds a little shelter to keep him safe from the weather. Bradley has a really bad injury on his leg. Because of that, even when he finally wakes up, there is absolutely no way he can walk. After about a day and a half, Bradley finally wakes up. Using one of those tricks she learned from TV, Linda manages to give him some clean water to drink. Then, she rubs some rocks together to start a good fire, and cooks up some fish from the ocean for them to eat. But would you believe it? Bradley's attitude has not changed one single bit. Even while he is lying there badly hurt, he keeps bossing Linda around just like he did back at the office. He actually threatens to fire her from her job. Hearing Bradley act so arrogant and ungrateful makes Linda so mad that she just walks off and leaves him there all by himself. Left all by himself, Bradley could not walk, and he certainly could not find any food. Between the terrible hunger and thirst, he was just about at death's door. After nearly 2 whole days passed, Linda finally came back and gave him some water to drink. By that time, it had finally dawned on Bradley, if he wanted to stay alive on this deserted island, he was going to have to listen to Linda. Next, Linda makes a sharp spear. She heads right into the thick jungle, and uses it to hunt down a wild pig. That night, the two of them finally get to eat a big, filling meal. To tell you the truth, Linda was actually really enjoying this wild, outdoor life. Bradley, on the other hand, was still having a very hard time dealing with everything. But even with all of that hardship, a wonderful friendship started to grow between the two of them. The very next morning, Linda goes looking for some fruit in the jungle, and stumbles upon a beautiful freshwater spring. While she is taking a quiet bath there, she suddenly spots a motorboat far out in the ocean. She can even see a few people on board. At first, she opens her mouth to shout out for help. But then, right in that moment, she stops herself. She realizes that she simply does not want to go back to her old life anymore. Truth be told, she decides she would much rather stay right there on that island. When Linda gets back from the spring, she gives Bradley some food, but she keeps completely quiet about that boat she saw out on the ocean. Bradley tells her that they have been stuck on this island for nearly 2 weeks now, so they really need to find a way to escape. His leg is healing up a bit, and he can even walk around a little using a stick. He suggests that they should build a raft, but Linda is just loving this wild life too much, and she does not want to be rescued at all. The two of them get into quite an argument over it, but at the end of the day, Bradley knows he cannot survive out there all on his own, so he has no choice but to give in and let Linda be the boss. Bradley asks Linda to please teach him the skills he needs to survive in the jungle, too. At first, Linda is a bit reluctant, but she finally agrees to do it. And just like that, Bradley's training begins. Linda shows him how to carefully walk along the narrow, steep paths hugging the side of the hills. She gives him a strict warning never to eat any wild fruits that are yellow, green, or white. She also teaches him a handy trick. If you want to know if a wild fruit is poisonous, you should always rub a little piece of it on your skin first to test it. From way up there on the hill, the whole island looked just beautiful. As they were walking along, they came across a big rock shaped exactly like a cross. Linda gave Bradley a very strict warning. She told him that he must never, ever go past that rock. She explained that there were some terribly poisonous plants over on that side, and wandering over there would mean certain death. Later, on their way back down the hill, Linda suddenly lost her footing and started to slip. But just as she was about to take a terrible fall, Bradley quickly grabbed hold of her, pulled her safely back up, and saved her life. That night, when they finally head back to their camp, they sit down and share some fruit wine that Linda made herself. As they sit there together, they start opening up and sharing deep secrets about their lives with one another. Bradley admits to her that he was never really close to his father growing up. He explains that his mother was the one who raised him, but she was a very strict and harsh woman. After quietly listening to his story, Linda just looks at him and says, "Monsters are not born, they are made." After that, Linda starts to open up about her own life. She tells him that her husband was very cruel and used to hit her when he had been drinking, but he was not always like that in the early days of their marriage. He just changed as time went by. Poor Linda always held on to the hope that one day, he would go back to being the caring man he once was. Then, Linda confesses a heavy secret. She admits that she was actually the one who caused her husband's car crash. One night, when he came home heavily drunk and treated her terribly, Linda purposely left his car keys right there on the table. And that is not all. She even handed him another glass of liquor. She knew deep down that if he got behind the wheel in that state, a terrible accident was sure to happen. And that is exactly how it went down. Telling this story makes Linda very emotional. Sitting there with her, Bradley can truly feel the deep pain she has been carrying in her heart. The very next morning, Linda wakes up and catches sight of Bradley, taking a bath without a stitch of clothing on. Now, truth be told, Linda starts to feel a little spark of attraction towards him. After everything they had shared, the two of them were really starting to understand each other on a much deeper level. But right about then, a terrible, fierce storm suddenly hits the island out of nowhere. The two of them have to make a run for it, and find shelter inside a dark, rocky cave. With the wind howling and the bitter cold setting in, they huddle up close together just to stay warm, and they end up falling asleep right there in each other's arms for the night. The next day, the weather clears right up. Bradley's leg had completely healed, and he was able to do a whole lot more work around the camp than before. He tells Linda that he is going to handle all the cooking by himself that night. Linda is just thrilled to hear this. When evening comes, Bradley cooks up several different dishes and serves them to her. But just a little while after Linda starts eating her meal, her head starts spinning and she begins to feel terribly dizzy. You see, Bradley had actually mixed some of those poisonous wild fruits right into Linda's food. As soon as poor Linda passed out cold, Bradley dragged out a wooden raft he had been secretly building and hiding in the jungle. His plan all along was to escape from that island, no matter what it took. He even packed up some of their food to take with him. Bradley pushed the raft out into the water and set off into the ocean. But, since he did not build that raft very well, it fell apart into pieces after just a little while. With nothing left to hold on to, Bradley started to sink right down into the deep water. As he was going under the water, Bradley started hallucinating. He actually imagined that his future wife, Tree, was throwing up on him. But in reality, it was Linda. She had just saved him from drowning and was getting sick right over him. Bradley completely passes out. When he finally comes to, he sees Linda standing right in front of him. She tells him that he did not use nearly enough of that poisonous fruit to actually kill anyone. It was only enough to make a person terribly sick. Linda explains that she forced herself to throw up to get the poison out of her system and save her own life. And even after what he did, she still went out and pulled him from the ocean to save him, too. Bradley, with tears running down his face, tells Linda that he never really meant to kill her. He says he only wanted to knock her out long enough so he could run away. Linda pretends to comfort him and hands him some octopus to eat. But as soon as Bradley takes a bite, his entire body becomes completely paralyzed. You see, Linda wanted to teach him a proper lesson. She purposely fed him a special kind of octopus that leaves a person totally numb and unable to move for a little while. Then, Linda put on a terrifying performance. She acted as if she was taking a sharp knife and cutting off Bradley's private part. In reality, she was only cutting a small rat that had been scuttling near his feet. Since his body was completely numb, Bradley couldn't feel a single thing. He truly believed she had actually done it, and he was absolutely paralyzed with fear. Linda then held up the dead rat and told him that she hadn't taught him all her tricks just yet. She gave him a stern warning. If he ever tried to run away or cross her again, she would give him a punishment he'd never forget. Bradley was now completely at Linda's mercy, and there wasn't a thing in the world he could do about it. To drive her point home, Linda tells him a story about a naughty dog her father once owned. She says they had to neuter the poor thing just to make it behave and follow orders. She looks Bradley right in the eye and warns him that if he doesn't start listening, she'll do the exact same thing to him. Now, there was something a bit strange about all of this. Linda was carrying a knife that was perfectly made and incredibly sharp. It wasn't the kind of thing you'd expect to find on a lonely, deserted island. It looked like it came straight from a store in the city. Linda claimed the knife had simply washed up on the shore with the ocean waves, but it certainly made a person wonder. Anyway, Bradley slowly gets back on his feet. He stops talking to Linda altogether, but he doesn't try to escape the island anymore either. One day, while Linda is out in the jungle gathering supplies, she spots another boat. This time, the boat actually pulls up to the shore. On board are Bradley's fiancée, Sri, and a captain. Turns out Sri has been searching everywhere for Bradley and finally found this island. Linda isn't happy to see her at all, but she goes ahead and tells her that Bradley is indeed alive. Linda starts leading Sri and the captain toward Bradley, taking them along that same narrow and dangerous path on the hillside. Suddenly, Linda stops and pretends she needs to tie her shoelace. She waves them on, telling them to go ahead without her. Now, there was a large rock just ahead that was very loose. As soon as Sri steps on it, the rock gives way, and she starts slipping right off the edge of the cliff. The captain reacts quickly and manages to grab hold of Sri, straining with all his might to pull her back up to safety. And right at that very second, a dark thought crosses Linda's mind. She starts thinking about giving them both a shove and sending them tumbling down to the bottom. Now, the story does not show us exactly what Linda does right in that moment, but in the very next scene, we see Linda walking back to Bradley all by herself. That can only mean one thing. Poor Sri and the captain both fell off that cliff to their deaths. Linda keeps her mouth completely shut and does not breathe a word about what happened to Bradley. Still, Bradley notices that she is acting awfully quiet. She just has this heavy look about her, almost as if she is carrying a terrible guilt over something she did. That very night, Linda has a terrifying nightmare. She dreams that Sri is crawling right out of the water. In the dream, Sri accuses Linda of murdering her and threatens to go tell Bradley the whole ugly truth. Linda wakes up crying and shouting no. After a moment, she catches her breath and realizes it was just a bad dream playing tricks on her mind. But that nightmare makes one thing perfectly clear. Linda really did push Shuri and the captain off that steep cliff, and now her heavy guilt is just eating her alive inside. The next morning, Bradley was out with a spear, trying his best to hunt down a wild pig. The pig managed to slip away, but as Bradley was looking around the beach, he spotted something terrifying sticking out of the sand. It was a human hand. He took a closer look and saw a massive diamond ring on one of the fingers. He recognized it right away. It was Xuri's ring. The horrible truth hit him all at once. His fiancée was buried right there under the sand. Everything made sense now. Bradley knew Xuri had come to the island to save him, and he knew for a fact that Linda was the one who murdered her. With tears pouring down his face, he took off running. He went straight back to Linda to demand the truth. At first, Linda pretends she has absolutely no idea what he is talking about. But the second Bradley holds up Xuri's ring, a massive fight breaks out between the two of them. Linda tries to swear up and down that the whole thing was just a terrible accident. Bradley is not having any of it, though. He yells right back at her, "You killed your husband, too." Sure, it might have been a car crash, but the entire plan was yours from the very start. Then, Bradley pulls out a secret weapon he had been hiding. It is that same perfectly sharp knife Linda had earlier. He starts chasing Linda deep into the jungle, and a brutal fight breaks out between them. But Linda knows how to survive much better, and she quickly gets the upper hand. Acting like a total psychopath, she actually bites into Bradley's skin and tears off a piece of his flesh. Then, she takes Xuri's huge diamond ring and swallows it whole right in front of him. Bradley fights back with everything he has and badly injures one of Linda's eyes. But Linda does not stop. She strikes back hard and wounds Bradley with the knife. Bradley finally manages to break away and makes a run for it. As he is fleeing through the jungle, he suddenly reaches that big rock shaped like a cross. Linda had strictly warned him that going past this point was a guaranteed death sentence. But at this point, Bradley just doesn't care. He completely ignores her warning and crosses over to the other side anyway. And when he gets there, he absolutely cannot believe his eyes. Right there, hidden away on the other side of the rock, stands a stunning, luxurious mansion. Completely shocked by what he is seeing, Bradley slowly makes his way inside the house. Stepping inside the house, Bradley is completely amazed. The whole place is filled with champagne, bottled water, all sorts of fresh fruits, and plenty of delicious food. It looks exactly like a home belonging to a very wealthy person. Suddenly, the truth hits him. This means Linda knew about this luxurious house the entire time, and she had been keeping it a secret from him on purpose. Bradley drinks some water and frantically starts searching for a knife to defend himself, but he cannot find a single one anywhere. Right then, Linda's voice echoes through the speakers in the house. She tells Bradley not to bother looking because she already took all the knives away. Do you remember that perfectly sharp knife Linda was carrying earlier? The one she claimed washed up on the beach? Well, she actually took it straight from this very house. It turns out Linda had discovered this luxurious mansion a long time ago. Whenever she got the chance, she would quietly sneak over here to relax and enjoy all the comforts completely behind Bradley's back. Turns out this luxurious mansion actually belonged to some billionaire. His staff would visit the island every few days just to restock the food and leave behind fresh supplies. The billionaire was so incredibly wealthy that he never even bothered to visit the place himself. But it was always kept perfectly clean and ready to use. Do you remember that one time Linda spotted a motorboat out in the ocean? Well, she actually followed that very boat, and that is exactly how she discovered this hidden mansion. She even spied on the staff and secretly learned the passcode to get inside the house. Right at that moment, Linda was sitting inside the mansion's control room. From up there, she was watching Bradley's every move on the CCTV cameras and talking to him through the microphone. Bradley immediately starts smashing the cameras one by one to blind her. Over the speakers, Linda keeps talking about how perfect everything was when it was just the two of them alone on the island. They were actually building a good life together, but Xuri just had to show up and ruin it all. Linda finally confesses the whole brutal truth. She admits that she was so blindly angry about Xuri coming to take him away. She hit the captain over the head with a heavy rock and pushed both him and Xuri right off the cliff to their deaths. Eventually, Linda steps right out in front of Bradley. She is holding a shotgun in her hands. She definitely found that weapon somewhere inside the house. Bradley immediately starts faking a breakdown and pretends to cry. He looks at her and says, "I was the one who was wrong. I am a terrible person. You taught me how to survive, and I betrayed you." Bradley even goes as far as telling Linda that he loves her. He promises her that they can stay on this island together forever. Hearing Bradley say all of this makes Linda a little emotional. The tension breaks and they both actually start laughing together. But Bradley was just waiting for the perfect moment. Right as she drops her guard, he suddenly attacks her with a sharp weapon. The surprise hit knocks the shotgun right out of Linda's hands, and it falls to the floor. That sharp weapon was not a knife at all. It was actually a pointed horn from an animal statue inside the house. Bradley had secretly snapped it off earlier, and kept it hidden just for this exact chance. Linda actually noticed that the statue was missing its horn, but she realized what was happening just a second too late. Taking full advantage of that hesitation, Bradley dives to the floor, snatches up the dropped shotgun, and aims it directly at her. He screams a curse at Linda and pulls the trigger, but Bradley had absolutely no idea the shotgun was completely empty. Right in that moment of shock, Linda grabs a golf club and viciously attacks him, finishing Bradley off once and for all. The scene suddenly shifts, jumping forward exactly 1 year in time. We see Linda out on a lush green course, casually playing a round of golf. But this is not just a regular game. Linda has become a massive celebrity, and is actually competing in a high-profile celebrity golf tournament. Turns out she somehow managed to get rescued from that deserted island. After returning to civilization, she wrote a book all about her terrifying ordeal, and it quickly became a huge bestseller. But there is a dark twist to her newfound fame. In her book, she completely lied to the world, claiming she survived on that island entirely on her own. Linda does not look awkward or plain anymore. She looks totally rich and perfectly styled. When she speaks to the news reporters, she puts on a great act. She pretends to be heartbroken, and says she deeply misses her lost co-workers. She even announces that she is writing a brand new self-help book. Her fake survival story is so popular that a studio is actually making a movie about it. In the very last scene, we see Linda driving a nice car down the road. Her little pet bird, Sweetie, is riding right beside her. Linda looks completely thrilled, and without a single worry in the world. She is singing loudly to the song, One Way or Another, and having the time of her life. She drives off into the distance, getting away with all her dark secrets. And right there, the screen goes black and the movie finally comes to an end. Alright guys, the movie might have ended on a strangely casual note, but this video is far from over. There are some wild theories about that ending, and we definitely need to talk about them. First off, let's break down Linda's character. At the start of the film, she was just a brilliant but painfully awkward employee. Her work was always top-notch, but to everyone else, she was just the office weirdo. Watching her transform from an everyday, quiet coworker into an absolutely ruthless predator is hands down the most fascinating part of the entire movie. The real reason Linda turned into such a terrifying monster is actually hidden in her painful past. She confessed to Bradley that her husband was a violent alcoholic who used to beat her. Linda put up with this terrible abuse for years, always hoping that one day, he might change for the better. But one night, she did something that you could call murder by inaction. While her husband was already totally drunk, Linda purposely left his car keys right on the table. She even handed him another glass of alcohol to drink. She knew perfectly well that he was in no condition to drive. That very night, her husband died in a fatal car crash. Linda did not just sit around hoping for a random accident to happen. She carefully set up the perfect trap to get rid of him once and for all. This backstory proves that a dark, vengeful side had been hiding inside Linda for a very long time. Everything that happened on the island was really just an explosion of all that old, pent-up anger. Once they got stranded, Linda's true colors fully came out. Because she grew up watching survival shows on TV, she had all these practical skills that Bradley completely lacked. But Linda didn't just figure out how to physically survive in the wild. She also discovered a twisted new way to control and dominate the people around her. For example, when Bradley tries to boss her around like he used to back at the office, Linda just walks away. She leaves him totally alone for 2 whole days just to force him to realize exactly how helpless he really is without her. From this point forward, Linda essentially starts treating Bradley like her own personal hostage. Bradley might have felt like she was just trying to help him survive, but he was always secretly looking for a way to escape her grip. The survival training Linda was putting him through was never really about keeping him alive. It was actually a calculated move to break him down, make him obedient, and keep him completely dependent on her. This massive shift in power is exactly where Linda transforms from a quiet victim into a full-blown, terrifying villain. Just think about it. She intentionally kept that incredibly luxurious mansion a complete secret from Bradley the entire time. Now, let us talk about Bradley Preston. He is your classic spoiled kid, who got everything in life handed to him on a silver platter. His extreme arrogance comes straight from his family background. He He was clearly raised to believe that having power and acting better than everyone else are the only things that matter. Because of this, Bradley always cared way more about looking cool and sweet, talking people than actually having any real skills. When a guy like that became the boss, his terrible attitude quickly turned into a massive nightmare for a hard worker like Linda. Even though Bradley's father was the CEO of the company, they were never actually close. The pictures of his dad sitting in the office just prove how distant his father always was from him. Because of this cold relationship, Bradley grew up constantly desperate for attention and validation from other people. Bradley even admitted himself that his mother was an incredibly cruel woman. The toxic behavior from both of his parents left a massive emotional void deep inside his heart. This actually explains the real reason behind his terrible behavior towards Linda. All of that pent-up anger he had towards his mother was still boiling inside him. He simply took his hidden rage out on women like Linda because he viewed them as weak and easy targets. Right after the plane crash, Bradley tries throwing his weight around, acting like he is still the boss. He even threatens to fire Linda right there on the beach. But when she just walks away and leaves him to suffer alone, he learns the hard way that Linda is the one truly in charge of the island now. And well, we all know how the rest of that story goes. However, there is another wild fan theory floating around out there. What if Linda actually planned the plane crash from the very beginning? A lot of viewers argue that if she could orchestrate her own husband's fatal accident so perfectly, setting up a plane crash is not that far of a stretch for her. Sure, the movie makes it look like a straightforward engine failure, but if you look closely, there are a few suspicious details that strongly point to this dark theory being completely true. The first huge clue is that mysterious loophole in Appendix D of their business contract. While they were still on the plane, Linda specifically mentioned she found a hidden flaw in those documents that would magically solve all their problems. Some fans think this loophole was not just about the business deal at all. They believe Linda might have actually discovered a critical flaw in the plane's mechanical systems and purposely took full advantage of it to bring the flight down. Think about it. Linda has been absolutely obsessed with reality survival shows since she was a little kid. She even auditioned to be on one multiple times, but never made the cut. For someone with her twisted mindset, orchestrating a real plane crash was basically a dream come true. It gave her the ultimate stage to finally prove her hardcore survival skills. Remember that scene on the plane where Donovan was making fun of her? Linda started crying and actually closed out of her important document without even saving it. Many viewers think she did this because she already knew the plane was going down, so saving the file was completely pointless. But honestly, this specific theory feels a bit too crazy to believe. Trying to perfectly plan a massive plane crash and somehow guarantee your own survival is incredibly difficult. Linda was definitely a dangerous person, but she probably was not smart or daring enough to pull off a stunt that extreme. But you have to remember that movies directed by Sam Raimi always hide a subtle hint of something dark. So maybe Linda did not actually cause the plane crash herself, but she might have sensed the engine failing right before it happened, and she simply used that terrifying opportunity to finally teach Bradley a brutal lesson. If you pay close attention, there is a very disturbing story Linda tells Bradley earlier in the film. She mentions that her father used to have a very badly behaved dog. When the animal refused to listen, they had it neutered to make it calm and completely obedient. This is actually a massive psychological clue for the entire movie. Out on that island, Linda basically treated Bradley the exact same way. She slowly broke him down and turned him into a totally submissive companion who had absolutely zero power of his own. Just think about what happened when Bradley finally tried to betray her and escape on the raft. Linda literally paralyzed him by feeding him octopus venom. In that terrifying moment, Linda actually acted like she was going to neuter Bradley for real. She played the part so convincingly that Bradley was completely traumatized and broke down in tears. This scene is the ultimate turning point for Linda's character. It shows that she is no longer just surviving the island. She has moved on to psychological warfare, enjoying the absolute power she holds over him. Fast forward to the end where we see Linda playing golf. That's not just a random hobby. It's a massive middle finger to her past life. Golf represents the high society status and elite boys club that Bradley and Donovan used to keep her out. Remember, Bradley initially denied Linda her well-deserved promotion simply because Donovan was his golfing buddy. He even insulted her by saying she wasn't the type of girl who plays golf, basically telling her she would never belong in their world of power and prestige. By mastering the game at the end, Linda isn't just a survivor. She has officially taken over the very world that once looked down on her. Now, listen closely, because this part is just brilliant. In the final moments of the movie, Linda uses a golf club to end Bradley's life once and for all. It's a club she found right there in that fancy mansion on the island. You see, the director, Sam Raimi, did something very clever here. It is a classic ironic twist. Think back to how it all started. Golf was the very game that kept Linda an outsider in the corporate world. It was why she was ignored and pushed aside. And yet, in the end, she uses a piece of equipment from that same gentleman's game to take Bradley's life. But there is more to it than just revenge. Linda was a sharp woman. She realized that if she ever stepped foot back in the real world with Bradley, her career would be over. He would have seen to it that she lost everything. That is why, deep down, she didn't really want to be rescued. She preferred being a queen on that island over being a victim back home. But after Bradley died, we saw that Linda did exactly what she needed to do. She went back. Seeing her at that celebrity golf tournament at the end makes one thing very clear. She didn't just survive. She stole Bradley's entire world. She took his status, his prestige, and his elite lifestyle for herself. She is finally living that high society life she was once denied. But the path to get there was paved with blood. This is why many people call this the birth of a psychopath. Linda didn't just kill Bradley, she completely consumed his identity. Think about it. To protect her secret and reach this peak, she also had to get rid of Jury and the captain. That kind of cold, calculated elimination is what makes her a true psychopath. She has tasted total power now, and there is absolutely no guarantee that she won't kill someone else again who stands in her way. At the very end of the movie, we see Linda driving her luxury car, singing along to the song, One Way or Another, by Blondie. Now, if you listen to the lyrics, that song is actually about a stalker, someone with very dark intentions, but the tune itself is quite catchy and fun. That song fits Linda's character perfectly. Tells us that one way or another, whether through hard work or through cold-blooded murder, Linda got exactly what she wanted. She finally has it all, the success, the wealth, and the fame. She didn't care how she had to get there, she just made sure she arrived. Now she isn't that shy, awkward Linda anymore. She has become a famous author, traveling around and selling a pack of lies to the whole world. And did you notice? Her little bird, Sweetie, is still right there with her. It just goes to show that she needs to keep everything, and everyone, under her thumb. By the end of this tale, Linda has truly turned into a monster. She said it herself once. Monsters aren't born, they are made. Now, Bradley was turned into a monster by the coldness and neglect of his own parents. But Linda, she was forged in the fire of her husband's abuse, Bradley's cruelty, and the bitterness of her own ordinary life. As the curtain falls, we're left scratching our heads, wondering who to root for. Is it Bradley or Linda? The truth is, they are both quite wicked in their own ways. And that, my friends, is exactly what makes a psychological thriller like this so much fun to watch. So friends, that was the story behind today's movie. Let us know in the comments how you liked this video. To get these kinds of deep dives into movie stories regularly, please like, share, and subscribe to stay with the channel. If there is a specific movie you want to hear the inside story of, just comment the name of the movie. That is all for today. I will see you in the next video. Thank you so much for watching the entire video.